There's gold in them there hills and ghosts in them there halls. I'm Spooky Maddie, and this is Anomalous. Hi, y'all.
I disagree.
I'm Spooky Maddie. This is Anomalous, where we talk about all things that are just a little off.
Like the South.
My family is Southern, I'll have you know, which is why my drawl is so...
Lol. Her drawl's so lol.
Alright,
I think you said anomalous.
Okay, I created the show. It's fine.
You created the show? I can't believe that it's already starting to break it apart.
I came up with the name, so...
Technically, a guy on Google a year before us came up with the name, which we didn't know.
I did some preliminary Googling, but...
If you're gonna have a show, don't just do, 8 episodes of 5 minutes and then forget it exists.
Yeah, that's why we're guaranteed 9 episodes or your money back. Okay, can you say your name?
Yeah, welcome back to the 3rd episode of Anomalous. I'm Just Cullen. Mm-hmm. My name is Just Cullen.
Thanks for tuning in. This week we're talking about the Whaley house. We're recording a little early, don't have that many updates, except my moss ball, who is yet to be named, is joining us today in the studio. Can you say hello, introduce yourself, moss ball?
Yeah, glad to have you too. Can you give us a little bit of your background? Very interesting. I'm excited to see what you'll add.
I am taking suggestions for names in my PayPal, so if you want to just send money and then you could comment the name suggestion.
We can't keep on pitching the PayPal thing. Check out our Instagram where you can help name the mothball.
Mossball.
Huh?
Yes. So this week we're talking about the Whaley House, which is a manor in Old Town San Diego built in 1857 by Sir Thomas Whaley. He was not knighted, but it feels right. For his family of 8. From nearly the day it was built, there have been reports of spirits inhabiting the home. And over the next 100 years, 6 of the 8 Whaleys would pass away inside the house, and many believe they have never left.
That's pretty spooky.
It is pretty spooky.
And unsanitary. They should get them out of there. I mean, I'm sure some of them are bones at this point.
Oh,
but
yeah.
One of them died in the 50s, so... I don't know. Is there still flesh on the bone? You were going to become a person that looked at corpses fall apart and cut them open and see what their guts smelled like.
Yes.
Would there still be any skin or anything on a corpse from the 50s?
Pretty sure they would be bone. It's pretty hot in San Diego.
That's fair. And I don't think that back in 1857 they installed central cooling.
Seems stinky. You might get some stinky vibes from this story. I don't know.
Here's the first fact of the podcast about the Whaley house. Probably stinky.
Actually, this house has some personal value to me in that I have been there a few times, and I will get into later me and my family's personal experiences and paranormal experiences.
Oh my God.
Hold tight. So the patriarch of the house, Thomas Whaley, was born in 1823 in Manhattan, New York. His father and grandfather, named Thomas and Alexander, built a gunsmithing business, and supposedly the grandpa Alex Whaley was part of the Boston Tea Party, one of the first quote-unquote settlers onto the U.S., and lent his Long Island home to George Washington. Seems fake, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost certainly fake. That's the sort of thing that a gunsmither would come up with. But I do like the idea of him just shilling his weapons the entire time. It's like, oh yeah, boys, get the tea over the sides. And you know what would really annoy the British? If we blasted the tea barrels apart with this fine rifle I seem to have here. Oh, is that my name on the side? And then when he's like, oh, George Washington, you need a place to stay? Because you don't have a place to stay in New York? Well, yeah, come over in my bed. And George Washington with his wig off, he's all snuggled up in the comforter.
His teeth off.
His teeth in the cup beside him on the table. The door to his room just creaks open. He's like, hey, Georgie, you see this fine gun I got here? Maybe it'd be good for... I mean, I don't know if a war's gonna start, but
This
Maybe
podcast,
we need a couple of muskets for it.
This podcast brought to you by the Military Industrial Complex. Okay, his mother, Rachel Pye, was from a family of lock manufacturers, and this is all to say that they had cash money. Mm-hmm. He had generational wealth going for him.
Yeah.
Thomas Whaley sailed for California in 1849, where he established a San Francisco store with George Wardle. He also built a 2-story house, and in this business, he mostly sold hardware and woodwork from his daddy's business, as they do.
His third most popular product was actually a collection of marbles that could be placed in a customer's mouth to be able to say the name of the general store, which is Whaley's and Wardles.
Very fun. Both buildings were arsoned, unfortunately.
We have some suspicions about the seediness possibly associated with Thomas, because this is the first of 2 arsons of his businesses.
Yes.
And this is the first of a very long line of different business partners that he would have, most lasting only a few months.
Arson me once, shame on you. But arson me twice.
That's a better Business Bureau investigation.
True. Mm-hmm. He moved to San Diego to set up yet another store. In 1853, he returned briefly to New York to marry his sweetheart and the soon-to-be Whaley House matriarch, Anna Eloise Delaunay.
I think it's Eloi. Anna is a thick-boned... What? Anna is a thick-boned Irish lass or Scottish lass, and I completely support her screaming Celtic runes at the ghosts in her house.
When you said thick, I thought you were gonna say Anna Whaley had that Pixar mom dump truck ass.
We don't have enough historical records to say one way or the other.
But I believe it. He made a name for himself in California, and the town people where he resided would often call him Mayor Whaley. He made a big splash and was a fairly prominent public figure. I like to think he was so popular because he was just kind of a cool dude. And his wife had a dump truck.
Dump truck ass. But also, if this was the 1930s instead of the 1840s, being called Mayor Whaley would make you the most rotund oligarch of all time.
True.
Just wandering around with your tuxedo pushed to the brink of its capacity.
Well, I think we'll see that Thomas Whaley was a fairly classy dude, and he will eternally remain a classy dude even after his death. But that we will get to in a bit. Thomas Whaley bought land in 1855 that the Whaley House would eventually be built on, despite the land being the site of one of the town's most famous public executions. So Yankee Jim Robinson, aka Santiago...
It says that in all of the different reports.
Don't know what that means. So Yankee Jim Santiago Robinson was charged in 1852 for grand larceny for theft of a boat. And some reports say he was a pretty notorious criminal before this too. He's kind of a bad dude.
Is that Yankee Jim Spencer?
I don't know who that is.
Wait, could it be Yankee Jim Bouton? What about Yankee Jim Leyritz? Which Yankee was it? Was it Yankee Jim Coates?
Are you talking about the baseball team?
Surely not.
No.
Why would I look up every Yankee who's ever played for the Yankees named Jim and put them all in a Word doc and then take a photo of that Word doc and bring it?
That's impressive. Because I was like, why didn't you go with the most famous Yankees? Like Yankee Derek Jeter or Yankee Alex Rodriguez? But you went the extra mile. That deserves a very fun from me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Disappointed again.
Oh, why don't you respect me? All right.
Oh, God. I thought you meant me.
Thomas erected a brick granary, and then a 2-story house on the land. So this is despite the land having already a bit of a notorious connotation. It was one of the first brick houses built in California, and according to every source, this is apparently important, that it was built with bricks from Thomas's own brickyard.
Ooh la la. Ooh la la. Also, I'm pretty sure if he called it a granary instead of a granary, they'd have to grind up grandmothers for flour instead of wheat.
If you told me they did that back then, I'd be like, sure. Seems
That
like
does
the
make
kind
sense.
of wild stuff they'd get up to in the old West.
The grains that come out of a granary, they make for very old, dusty, racist bread.
Riddle me this. First of all, we seem like a very anti-grandma podcast, which we're not. My grandma is a nice, sweet old Southern lady, and I will not take any comments from you at this time, Cullen. Why is it spelled Gran, and there's no I in it for granary?
Do I look like a person from history? I don't know. People called shit stuff.
That's true. I've never heard anything more true.
If you're ever wondering what a word we just said in this podcast is, old shit meant stuff. That's the answer to your question.
Yeah. Also, don't ask us. We surely do not know.
We do not know.
So when he built this house, it was built a 2-story house in a Greek revival style.
What does that mean? What are the facets of a Greek revival style?
Columns.
I don't remember there being any columns.
In Greece?
No, on the house.
I think there was. Just Google Greek revival style, and this house will come up. It was a beautiful house, and it really made a splash in 1857 San Diego.
I see a quote from him on it. Can you read it in, we'll have like news bulletin. News bulletin from old man Thomas Whaley over in Old Town San Diego.
Whaley boasted, "My new house, when completed, will be the handsomest, most comfortable, and convenient place in town, all within 150 miles from here."
Well, golly gee, isn't that impressive?
Yeah, except it's actually
The most haunted place within 1,000 miles.
damn. But yeah, there were trees planted. Anna Whaley eventually made a garden. It was a pretty nice house. $10,000 in period money.
Period.
No.
What?
So
Is that not what you meant?
So think like $1,700 a month in Rita Ranch nice.
Oh, I'm a listener who's not from that very specific part on the outskirts of Tucson, and I don't know how to download Zillow and look up things.
Yeah, if you don't get the joke, do your due diligence. Download Zillow, check out Rita Ranch, and houses listed for $1,700. Guarantee they have a pool.
I wrote this bit, and I'm now backing away from insulting our audience for no reason.
And by our audience, you mean my mom.
Wake up!
Oh, that's fun. So Thomas Whaley and his family moved in, and by 1858, his family was composed of wife Anna Whaley and 3 children, including the eldest Francis Hinton, Thomas Jr., and Anna Amelia.
There actually was, and this got slipped in the notes at the last minute, a unheard of 7th child of the Whaley families, which was a young, rotund, chocolate-covered boy named Fudgy the Whaley. You can't just leave me hanging.
Okay, that's fine. We'll move on. So, unfortunately, tragedy hit the family quickly and back to back. Thomas Jr. died in the house from scarlet fever at a young 18 months old. And a few months later, Thomas Whaley's store was arsoned yet again, destroying his business.
And as we'll get into later, some people have heard footsteps and chatterings of young 18-month-old Thomas Whaley Jr.
To me, it seems very unlucky that the one Thomas Jr. dies before he's even 2 years old. Like, that seems like a bad sign for the family.
That is tough, but it did happen a lot. Honestly, for 6 kids, they did pretty good.
That's true. Understandably, the Whaley family did not like the vibes that Old Town was throwing down, so Thomas and his family moved to San Francisco, leaving the house under the care of a Wells Fargo agent, Frank Ames. Or Ames. I don't know.
Frank a mess.
Frankly, a mess. It's kind of interesting, maybe because Frank a mess was just like not important at all, and his legacy will never live on. No one cares about him, and he's dead and gone for sure. But we never hear from him, like, if he had any spooky experiences in the house.
He was too busy counting his money to hear the crying of a ghostly boy.
Damn. So Thomas worked as a storekeeper in San Fran, and the Whaley family expanded by 3 in the What?
It makes it sound like they expanded by mitosis.
They divided and conquered. In the around 2 decades they were there. So Thomas and Anna welcomed children George Hayes, Violet Eloise, and Corinne Lillian, making them a family of 8. Or 7. Rest in peace, Thomas Jr.
Rest in peace, Thomas Jr. And rest in Candyland, Fudgy the Whaley. I will not cut this joke out.
Okay, that's fine. We're losing our 1 follower as we speak. After a major earthquake,
Maddie was very full on the couch, moaning, grabbing her belly.
I'm lactose intolerant, but
Yeah,
I love being bad.
Or the other night when you got
cheese curds.
You got a cheeseburger with cheese curds and a concrete, and cut to 2 hours later, you're in the bathroom sitting on the floor like, Cullen, I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I was crying. The pain. I have those lactate pills. Part of me loves the pain.
It ruins the dangerous flavor of a concrete.
It's true. After a major earthquake in San Francisco, perhaps caused by Anna Whaley's thick dump truck ass.
You're obsessed with this.
I love a woman with a thick dump truck ass. I'm by Maddie. This is. After a major earthquake in San Francisco in 1868, the family moved back to San Diego. And this is when the Whaley House really solidified itself as a public and historic hub of activity.
Ghost activity.
Oh my God. And also living activity.
Yeah, mostly living activity.
Thomas and his business partner opened up a general store in the lower level of the Whaley House. And when they came back, Thomas did some renovations to the house and rented out part of the upstairs, which became San Diego's first commercial theater.
Howdy, how are you doing? You ready to see a Nickelodeon? We've got Black Man is a Fool. We've got Black Man Dances for Coins. We've got Black Man Falls Off of a Large Place. Would you like to see any of them? Oh no, I've died unexpectedly and I'm the troop leader, so now everything's over.
Yes, the probably racist
Certainly
troop
racist.
leader, because everyone was racist back then. Mm-hmm. Awful.
Back then, in like the most...
True.
Back then, in the largest number of quotes that Twitter will allow you to put in one post.
Honestly. Yeah, the troop leader died, so the theater did not last very long, although it made a splash. So when you Google the Whaley House, it's like a big thing, like the first commercial theater in San Diego. But after the troop leader died, they re-rented the upstairs space as a meeting space for the San Diego Board of Supervisors. And the granary would also be used as San Diego's county courthouse, which I've been there to the Whaley House. So if you go there, there is like a room that's set up like a courthouse. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool, pretty spooky.
And they put old spirits on trial for crimes that they think they committed. It's really fun.
It's purgatory.
Wow.
Contains a portal to heaven or hell.
You took a way sadder angle to this whole thing. I was going to be like, before you died, Mrs. Grimshaw, you pushed one of the prams in front of the old trolley. And she's like, you got me dead to rights.
A ghost judge, like, order in the court.
And then you're just like, actually, it's an endless, eternal space that spirits live without any sustenance in mind or body.
Doomed to repeat their mundane actions of the living.
For it wasn't their fault that they cannot go to heaven nor hell, but they are stuck here regardless.
Yeah. We'll get into it, but is the Whaley House like Murder House from American Horror Story? It really traps you in there.
It could be like any number of things I don't know about.
Sure. So, unfortunately, the wondrous days of renting their personal home out to court trials and city board meetings would not last long.
Yippee! Oh no! Oh no, the court trials and the board meetings are all gone. How will we possibly get our entertainment? Also, a couple Google reviews do note that for at least a year while the Tanner Troupe was operating in the theater upstairs, one of the main bedrooms just had a door that opened directly into the theater space, which A is frightening because you know back then, like what we did when we went to see the classic Ma, people get drunk and then go to the theater. So they're just wandering into your room, pissing on your bed because they think it's the public bathroom. And second, you get up for a glass of water or beer or whatever they drank back in history, and you wander on stage and are forced to recite a soliloquy in front of the entire town.
This episode of Anomalous brought to you by Ma 2019.
Did it come out I think it came out in 2018.
That was the last time I was happy.
Yeah, Ma was the high peak before everything started to fall apart into 2020.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ma.
I think it would be kind of fun to just like open your door and get a free ticket into the theater for the 1 year it was operational.
Are you positing that they rented out space in these people's house and didn't give them free access to the shows?
That's fair.
2019.
2019. Go see Ma 2019. You won't regret it.
Go watch Ma in your living room right now.
Right this second.
No, after the podcast.
So actually, though, the whole dissolvement of the court system in their house was pretty tragic for them.
Well, what ended up happening was in 1868, San Diego established Newtown, San Diego, which in hindsight is
gentrification.
Interesting. I was going to say not all that new. But when they established Newtown, all the seats of government decided to move over there because they're highfalutin. And the people of Old Town didn't want them to go over and figured they could just sort of force them to stay, and their next board meeting wouldn't be immediately like how to shut down the Whaley house.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. The Whaley house people, possibly the Whaleys, refused to hand over their court and board papers.
Interesting strategy.
In true 1800s Old West fashion, in 1871, the court sent out a posse of townspeople, armed, who held Lady Annie Whaley at gunpoint and forcibly took the documents back.
Yikes.
Yeah, it wasn't great for them.
Where's Thomas Whaley Jr. there to Casper the Ghost that situation and get all of the thugs to like bump into each other?
I think Casper, the friendly ghost, was against violence in all forms.
I think Casper the Friendly Ghost was actually a 100-year-old man who ended up kissing a 12-year-old on the lips.
It's questionable.
It's questionable, the entire situation.
So the Whaleys may have actually had some grounds with the government breaking its lease and avoiding unpaid rent and damages. So it put us in a very difficult position of picking sides between the government and a landlord.
We'd like to choose neither.
Yes, I pick neither.
I pick neither as well.
It was very traumatic for Anna Whaley, but don't be a landlord.
If you want to weigh in on whether you pick the side of the government or a landlord, let us know on Instagram. And prepare to be blocked.
Nice. Down with both.
Down with both.
So after that drama in 1871, the family had a quiet few years until the double wedding of their daughters in 1882.
What a momentous occasion. That must have been so beautiful and wholesome.
Well, Anna Amelia Whaley would marry John T. Whaley, her first cousin.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
First cousins and the same last name? Mm-hmm. That is...
a double whammy. A double Whaley.
A double Whaley. Very good.
On the same day, Violet Whaley would marry George T. Bertolacci. Unfortunately, their marriage would not last and would end in tragedy. Some versions of the story, some sources we read, said Bertolacci was a con man looking for a large dowry from the family, and he disappeared in the middle of the night while on their honeymoon. Other sources don't really have the details, like respect that it can't be verified, just kind of say the marriage did not end and ended poorly.
Okay, ask yourself, would you prefer a probably made-up story with no details or a big shrug with no details?
A made-up story.
A made-up story. That's why we're talking about ghosts in the first place.
Yeah. Regardless... Hey, no!
Yes!
Retake it. I just tune you out.
Oh, we're supposed to be a partnership.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that why you don't laugh at any of my jokes?
Professionalism, it's called.
It's we're a comedy podcast.
I believe in ghosts. I believe this place is haunted, just for the record. Regardless, Violet was divorced by the next year, which was not good for her reputation. Did not fly back
Really
then
didn't.
in proper society. Makes you wonder if Anne actually made the right call in marrying her first cousin with the same last name. They can't be conning you because they have the same family, money, and the same DNA. You can
Very
trust
fun.
them.
You can trust them.
DNA you could trust.
They've got everything that you got.
It is kind of rough that the successful marriage was the incestuous one.
Yeah, that's tough to hear.
Tragically, in 1885, Violet, who fell into a deep depression due to her ostracization and heartbreak, took her own life in the Whaley house by shooting herself in the chest. Her note read, "Shot to the heart and..." Hey! Oh no!
Go ahead and read what you have in the notes.
Her note read, "Shot to the heart, and you're to blame. You give Bertolacci a bad name." Cullen, that is awful. I am doing all the notes from now on.
Oh, I'm so happy that you didn't notice until we were recording it.
Deeply tragic. She did leave a note.
Her actual suicide note was an excerpt from Bridge of Sighs by Thomas Hood. "Mad from life's history, swift to death's mystery, glad to be hurled anywhere, anywhere, out of this world."
Very tragic. The family took it hard. So that same year, they moved to a new one-story house in Newtown, San Diego. There is some confusion about this because a lot of sources say Thomas Whaley died at age 67 in the Newtown house, but his ghost is in
His ghost seems
the
to
Whaley
have
house.
trekked across town. It
Yeah.
picked up its ghostly luggage, its ghostly attaché case, and took, I assume, a public bus down to Old Town to move back into his old decrepit house that his daughter had killed herself in, and his son was dead in.
Yeah.
Because that's where you want to go when you're an old ghost.
Okay, if you're spending eternity, like, roaming the earth, you might as well be with your family.
No, you go and see the Seven Wonders until your wife dies and she forces you to stay at home, the old ball and chain.
The old ball and chain.
This is what we call some ghoulish Kevin James style comedy.
Very fun. So the family left to Newtown following Violet's suicide, and the house was rented continually and fell into disrepair until 1909, when Francis, the eldest son, returned and renovated the home.
And then moved his mother in and a couple of his other siblings.
Yeah, the matriarch Anna Whaley died in 1913 at age 80, which I feel like is very old for the time.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. The eldest son died a year later. And then finally, daughter Corinne Lillian lived in the house, resided, I believe. I'm not sure if she, like, lived there for the next 50 years.
She was in and out writing her memoirs until she died in 1953. Mm-hmm. And she was the last person to, even in and out, live there.
Yeah. So now we'll get into the sightings. So this is a very haunted house. It was ranked by Travel Channel and Time at one point as the #1 most haunted house in America.
I would say just the fact that 5 or maybe 6, if Thomas Whaley's ghost did that public bus trip across town, of the 8 family members dying there, certainly would contribute to that reputation.
Yeah, you know, there are places that I feel like with the tragedies that take place, you can, even if you don't believe in ghosts, you could kind of feel like the imprints of the tragedies. That might be too ghost-like for you. But yeah, it's very notorious for being extremely haunted. A lot of people having a lot of experiences there pretty much since its erection.
You can't keep saying erection and then looking at me. I somehow managed through the last one, but you can't keep doing it.
So let's recap the spirits who may be dwelling in the Whaley house. First is old Yankee Jim James Santiago Robinson, who was hanged on the property a year before the house was built. 18-month-old Thomas Whaley Jr. died of scarlet fever in the house. This was like 3 years after Yankee Jim. like 1 year, the same year maybe, they built the house. Violet Whaley took her own life by shooting herself in the heart after the end of her marriage. This happened in the house. Actually, BuzzFeed,
Oh my God.
BuzzFeed Unsolved, those two silly boys. I believe they said it was like in the garden or a shed or something, and Thomas Whaley dragged her body into the house.
That's
Like before she died, which is like a common trope I've seen in haunted house.
like dragging them into the house.
So they like stay in the house.
You don't want to ruin a really pleasant garden with a haunting. You're inside an old creaky house going up and down the staircases. You expect a ghost to be dropping those old sour-faced portraits off the wall onto your head. But you're out there looking at like the little baby statue, you know how they have it where he's peeing and it's the you're out there in the garden looking at that and all the flowers. You don't expect a ghost to be sneaking up behind you with
The garden hoe.
with a garden hoe ready to smack you upside the head with it.
That's true. Thomas Whaley Sr. died age 67 in San Diego. So sources once again said he didn't die in the house, but we'll talk about whether his spirit has been seen in the house. Anna, aka Old Mama Whaley, died in the Whaley house in 1913, and Francis Whaley, the eldest son, died in the house in 1914.
I'm aware that I wrote that portion of the notes, but Old Mama Whaley sounds like she got a Guinness Book of World Records as the heaviest woman ever to live.
So Corinne Lillian died in the house in 1953. And we'll get into possibly their terrier, Dolly Varden.
I didn't understand that any dogs died in this house, and I apologize for the levity that I've brought to the story so far in light of that new information.
So the first known ghostly encounters occurred literally since the beginning of the house itself. The Whaleys themselves reported hearing heavy footsteps and seeing unexplained footprints. Thomas declared these were the heavy boots of Yankee Jim. He knew about old Yankee Jim because he actually witnessed his execution.
And he had the heaviest boots on you could ever see. Okay. That's why Yankee Jim stole a boat, because his boots were always full up with water. Heavy as could be. You think your grandma's ankle weights that keep her one step further away from death every day are heavy? Try on old Yankee Jim's boots.
Jesus. We are not an anti-grandma podcast.
We're not a pro-grandma podcast, that's for goddamn sure.
Oh my God. So during his execution, Yankee Jim swung like a pendulum back and forth until he strangled to death.
That's just the description of a hanging, I think, right?
I don't know. He swung back and forth. That's kind of spooky.
Well, they did hang him off
image.
a wagon, so I can't imagine that they, like, pulled out that old-timey book that you're supposed to, like, determine the amount they're supposed to drop and everything. So he probably did just, like, hang and swing there for a little while. Which, violent ending to someone's death maybe becomes he's walking around the old...
Stomping around.
And possibly, depending on how high the wagon was, could it be that he was always in the upstairs because that's about the level he was at when he was hanged?
This is getting a little too scary. So as we mentioned before, youngest daughter Lillian resided in the Whaley house until 1953, and she was sure the house was haunted by Yankee Jim, citing the footsteps and the windows unlatching and flying open. Yankee Jim just getting some air, you know?
He's got to get a little bit of air.
Anna Whaley believed that the house was cursed and the reason for all the tragedy they had experienced. Just super interesting. I don't know. I feel like there's like a long history of buildings having like threatening auras.
Certainly. I mean, have you been to the bank?
Nice. So over the years, tons of supernatural phenomena has been reported. Staff and visitors alike have reported encounters with ghostly orbs, some captured in pictures, some captured in not great pictures
yeah.
that you could find on the Google reviews.
The amount of poorly hand-circled orbs in the Google reviews, it makes me question the air quality of the house because it's just dust floating. And there's so many people that work there and give tours, you know, you gotta take care of them.
So staff and visitors have also reported cold spots, ghostly presence, you know, when you're like standing there and you feel someone there, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm aware of what a presence is.
unexplained sounds, and even full apparitions. And most of these apparitions are of the Whaley family themselves. Which, if you look at the most popular picture, really if you Google like Whaley house or Whaley family and images, it's a creepy picture.
When you are looking into a ghost house, the number one is going to be like the weird, creepy family photo that they took that always gets thrown to the top because it is scary.
That's true.
I guarantee you that they had that photo taken and they're like, Jesus, look at us. Well, look at our eyes. Look at the child is the worst. The little girl, whoever that was. Absolutely frightening. They certainly didn't like put it on display.
Yeah, they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't pay this guy. I want my money back. More like Karen Whaley. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
A tragic life.
Yeah.
So we will go through the like main ghosts that are seen, if that makes sense, starting off with the Whaley family. So there have been reported sightings that are attributed to the young Thomas Jr., the 18-month-old. There's reported sounds of tiny footsteps, like
do, 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 do. And then you hear, that's him opening the cookie jar.
Oh no. That would suck to be an 18-month-old ghost, like forever. People have also reported hearing Thomas Jr.'s crying and giggling, which, oh my god, little kid giggling is terrifying.
It is very upsetting.
I just hate seeing a little kid having a good time.
You swerved the car at a Boy Scout earlier today.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna give him my money.
He wasn't even asking for it.
Well, he waved to me.
He did wave at you.
Threatening aura.
And you could just hear it ring inside your like head, like.
Hate it.
Also, a little boy giggle from the 1800s has to be especially creepy.
It reminds me of that Clickhole article that's like, Mother, can I have a lady fingers McFlurry? And it's like, finally, a lady figures McFlurry for all the fancy little boys out there. Funny one.
Once an episode, you completely lose me.
Violet has also been a very commonly reported presence in the house, and her presence is felt especially in the upstairs and in her room. Visitors often complain of coldness and deep feelings of sadness and dread. There has also been reported sightings of a young lady on the second floor, and people believe it is Violet, just like a young old-timey lady. Yeah. The patriarch Thomas Whaley is also frequently spotted, despite him possibly and probably not necessarily dying in the house or passing away in the house. But he's frequently spotted dressed to the nines in his frock coat and pantaloons. Very classy.
Very, very classy. That's a ghost that you want to get to know, because he has some pull in the ghost community. Honestly.
He's usually seen on the upper landing of the house, and he's been spotted by staff, visitors, and a young girl. So there's like a 5 or 6 year old girl visiting, and she was like, hello, old fancy man. And everyone looked, and there was no fancy man there. It was just casual men.
He's in a hoodie and jean cutoffs. That's not a fancy man at all. She sees a ghost.
Yeah, pretty interesting that he's like all dressed up.
I mean, if you're gonna be in one outfit for all eternity, don't you want it to be like
your frock and pantaloons?
Yeah, I have a frock and pantaloons picked out. I have it up in our room that I want you to put me in if I'm ever violently killed.
It seems very classy. That's all I have to say. Likewise, the matriarch Anna has also been spotted in the house. People have reported to smell her iconic French perfume. If it were our puppy Creature's ghost haunted, they would smell some hot booty foot stew. That is his iconic aroma. Yeah, he smells bad.
Oh, God, our dog fucking stinks so bad.
She's usually seen in the downstairs room or in her beloved garden. And, hold on to your horses, TV personality Regis Philbin himself reported to see Anna, describing a filmy white apparition, and he was like, oh my god, a filmy white apparition. And he turned his flashlight on, and there was nothing there except he was in front of the portrait of Anna.
So this is really a ghost house for the kind of people that are drawn to the credibility of a 5-year-old girl and Regis Philbin.
Other people have had experiences. There's all those websites that's like,
Regis Philbin felt a ghost here.
That are like the #1 most reported reported or the number 4.
There was that Google review that called it the top 1 most haunted house in America.
Yeah, so you gotta take that seriously.
As far as most haunted places go, not as many physical phenomenon as I would have expected.
Yeah, we'll get into some more, but it's kind of like I was complaining about, like, horror movies. There's only, like, so many things, especially if they're mostly benevolent. Like, oh, an orb. Like, a bunch of people have seen orbs, you know?
Well, that's why you have people like the family from The Conjuring who in real life pumped up all of their reports to make it seem more believable and extreme.
No, because the Warrens took the worst cases to help them. So, of course, crazy shit was happening because it was...
There's a couple of con men.
No.
Oh, this is an ongoing argument that we have.
In this house, we respect the Warrens.
In this house, we disrespect the Warrens.
No. So, as stated earlier, there has even been an apparition of the family dog spotted by a parapsychologist who was visiting. They were like, oh, a little, like, terrier. And they're like, oh my God. Apparently, they spotted the terrier. And they're like, a terrier. It's an apparition. And then people were like, oh my God, they had a terrier. Dolly Varden or some shit.
Dolly Varden was the terrier's name?
Something like that. And I'm not gonna check.
That's a fucking fancy ass dog name.
Yeah.
Didn't you call someone Dolly Fartin the other day when we were watching TV?
Yeah.
It's a good little roast off the cuff.
Roasted her. So other ghosts that live in the house are frequently seen include the woman of the courtroom. She's usually spotted in the corner of the jury box, and she's described as small and swarthy. Some people have seen her and described her in extensive detail, like what she was wearing.
Sounds like perverts.
So her description of small and swarthy did not fit any Whaley family member. So many people suspect that she may be the apparition of someone who had rented the house.
Possible.
Yeah.
They did rent it for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Or Francis is extremely upset with his appearance as a ghost. He's like, I tried on a wig once as a joke with the theater company, and this is the ghost apparition I get stuck with. I wanted to perform one night with the famous Tanner troupe outside of my bedroom door, because they were always there. I put on a wig. Now I'm a ghost with a wig.
How did I know I was gonna die when I looked so small and swarthy?
I guess I do appreciate being called swarthy at least, even if I am misgendered.
True. So one psychic, Sybil Leek, reported the spirit of a young girl with long hair, typical like little girl in a dress. This spawned an urban legend that a young family friend had been playing in the Whaley house when she broke her neck tripping over a clothesline. However, there is no record of a child breaking their neck at the house, nor any record. People said her name was like Anna or McDoyle Washburn.
How tall was this old McDoyle Washburn? She was like a 14-foot tall little girl who tripped over a clothesline?
No, they specified it was they specified it was a very low clothesline.
What does that even mean? A clothesline isn't going to be along the ground. The clothes would get dirty.
I didn't think I had to specify. I thought you would, like, get it,
Logically speaking, a clothesline is in the air. Did she, like, lariat herself with it?
Anyways, there's not
was the clothesline made out of steel that she ran into it and it broke her neck?
I really didn't think I'd have to really, like, write it out for you, give you a free energy diagram of it, but okay.
All right. This is the opinion of the self-proclaimed fact queen.
There isn't a record of a family named Washburn in the area, so certified myth busted.
And if there was a record, it would probably be a pretty tame bluegrass number.
Busting makes me feel good.
All right. We both tried something and neither of them worked, and
it's about trying things.
It's about trying things.
So other than witnessing apparitions, which I think if you get into the ghost lore, that has to be like a pretty powerful spirit if it can just
appear to you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Or Thomas Whaley is just so excited for people to see his pantaloons and frock that he is harnessing all of his psychic energy to appear to them in the fanciest way.
I get that, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm. It's like when you put on that sparkle top that perpetually ruins our entire couch, and you just stand out on the street screaming at strangers to have a look at you.
It's a good top.
It's a good top. Blinding.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, that there are so many full-bodied apparitions. None of, like, Thomas Jr., none of Yankee Jim. Makes you think it's like, is it their connection to the house? Or,
well, perhaps when maybe they were appearing as apparitions, and then Thomas Whaley came back and reined everyone back in, you know? Yeah. Even as a ghost, he's the patriarch of the house.
I think that's why he came back.
He's like, I gotta catch the 5 bus south back to Old Town to get in my old house. And of all the characters to run into while taking the public bus to your next interview, a legitimate ghost has to be one of, like, actually the best, because they're cleanly.
True.
The most you're gonna smell is some ectoplasm. It's not like they piss themselves.
You're gonna be cold, though, if they sit next to you.
Oh, if they sit in you? That's terrible.
So other than the apparitions, guests and staff frequently report feeling unexplained presences, cold spots, mists appearing, lights turning on and off, and hanging lamps swinging. So pretty much there would be like fancy lamps, fancy chandeliers with like crystals hanging off of them, and they'll just like swing for no reason.
That's very, very spooky.
From
all of the things I've seen from Google reviews and stuff, though, you can hear the deep sigh of the people that work in the Whaley house. Because all the reviews are like, if you ask really nicely, or maybe just dozens of times, the staff will tell you about ghost stories that they have.
I don't know. You know what you're signing up for as a tour guide of the most haunted house in America.
You graduated San Diego University with a history bachelor's, and you ended up working for like a couple dollars above minimum wage in this old house.
That's fair. That's more than I make. And I would love to talk about ghosts.
You'd be scared so much.
I was so scared. Also reports of curtains moving and shadows. So frequently when you're outside of the house looking in the windows, there'll be like a shadowy figure.
Ooh.
Orbs, of course caught on camera and seen in person.
If Anna Whaley, the rotund, gorge Irish lass that she is, doesn't have some thick orbs in the afterlife, I don't know anything about ghosts.
Huge orbs appear to you, just actually her booty cheeks.
Your booty cheeks. Oh shit! Get a video of that. Those orbs are clapping. They're making it clap.
As well as like shadows moving around the house.
Interesting.
So exciting time. My family has visited the Whaley house many a time. And on our most recent visit, my mom actually had a paranormal encounter.
Interesting. Let's get into the details.
Yes. So when walking down the stairs on a warm summer night in a crowded tour, my mom felt a cold spot and she felt a presence behind her that gave her chills. She got goosebumps. And then she felt a tap on her shoulder and lost her breath as she was going down the stairs. Yankee Jim choked her out, ?
Let's go to a statement from your mom.
This is an anomalous correspondent.
That Yankee Jim, he choked me out.
That was an anomalous correspondent.
Wow!
We'll just be like sitting at family game night and my brother will just be like, remember when Yankee Jim choked you?
It's super fun tale to bring up.
Yeah, put a noose around your neck. But yeah, it's like he was hunged. So is he like walking around with a noose, choking?
Oh, he slipped it over her neck.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's scary.
If you are a person of a certain mindset, I can see you being hanged and then you're like, this wasn't cool. That's unfair. So now, whenever I can, I'm gonna choke other people. Tell them, how does this feel?
Is Yankee Jim a racist and was choking your Mexican mom?
Yes.
That makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me a lot. Makes dollars. She also said when we were outside by the garden near the granary and like looking into the house, my mom saw a shadow figure in the window.
There's Yankee Jim shaking his little fist at her.
Yeah. I'll get you next time. Also, when I was a baby, my parents went on the ghost tour and my dad saw a cat in the window, thought it was a ghost, and almost dropped me in a bush.
He was trying to hide you from the ghostly cat.
Yeah.
That's very nice of him.
Protecting.
He definitely wasn't trying to, like, drop the extra weight and run.
Yeah. Baby me and baby Thomas Whaley Jr. just, like, fighting.
Oh, yeah, his ghost comes over and he starts pulling on your pigtails.
Yeah, Ghost Wars Child Edition.
Child edition.
So yeah, it was very interesting. I am excited to go back. I don't know. There is the case where you hear about it. You're literally going on a ghost tour. It's an old, creepy house. So when you're there and you get inside, you're like, yep, this is a creepy house. I could see it being haunted. I mean, if you look up pictures, it reads.
Yeah, just being in a super old house scares me because I can't take that kind of dip in lifestyle. Like, if we ever do get a solar flare and have to go back to those times of, like, chamber pots and stuff, I'm not going to survive long.
True. Old stuff is always creepy. We're not an anti-grandma podcast, but...
We're an anti-great-grandma podcast because usually they're ghosts.
I knew my great-grandma.
Did you?
One of them, yeah.
We're an anti-great-great-great-grandma podcast.
No.
my
Let's
God.
just not be anti any grandma. I would recommend going there. I'm excited to go there at some point. I don't know. Next time we leave our house.
And we'll check in with a special then. The name of the episode will be Spooky Maddie is incredibly disappointed by the lack of reaction by Just Cullen when entering a ghost house.
True. There are a lot of reviews saying, like, I expected to be choked by Yankee Jim, but I was not.
Your mom really got her $10
She
worth.
did. I think when you're going into a haunted house and you're like, something better happen or I want my $8 back, then
Yeah.
something's probably not going to happen. I think you have to have a balance of being like open to it, but not searching for it. Because ghosts are kind of wily like that.
They really
feel
are.
like.
They'll slip through your fingers.
And if you are a ghost and you're just like living damned eternally on Earth, I would have some fun with it. It's like, oh, you want to see me? I bet. Well, you're not going to see this anytime soon.
All of that being said, if anyone out there is a practicing witch or wizard and can, like, put together a custom seance for us to get old Anna Whaley to clap her booty cheeks for us, we would really appreciate you sending that over.
As much as I would like to see a ghost of Anna Whaley making her dump truck clap, that's scary. I will never do a
It's scary.
seance.
She'll never do a seance.
The haunted ghost tour was the best I could do. But yeah, I recommend it. It was fun. I want to go on it again. And it's cool because you do the haunted ghost tour and you're like, ooh. But then you go out and there's like all of Old Town and you can like get some fudge.
Yeah.
And then go to the beach the next day. Pretty epic.
Pretty epic.
So the Whaley House is very interesting. The fact that they're like full-blooded apparitions, the fact that it's mostly like the innocent Whaley family, and the fact that my mom's experience was negative makes you wonder like how powerful Yankee Jim is.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting. It's always fun, a story of like a haunted house when you can like name the ghost. Like, it's haunted by old Yankee Jim.
Yankee
It's always fun.
So to wrap up, as we've alluded to a couple of times, the house is open to tours and has a gift shop and is basically like a functioning museum. And it has been like that since about 1960 when there were plans to demolish it to make place for a gas station, which for the sake of those poor gas station employees, thank God that didn't happen. Little boy Thomas pulls on their coattails and is like, may I have one of the beanies, sir?
Knocking over all the Twizzlers. It's
Yeah.
like, Thomas Jr.? Done it again.
About old Thomas in his frock and pantaloons scaring off customers. They're
Yeah.
like, I'm not fancy enough to get a lottery ticket and a pack of Marlboros from here.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that it did not become a gas station.
Yeah, and definitely a good thing also historically that it was saved. And now it's being operated by Soho, which is the Save Our Heritage organization, which, as far as we can tell, despite the name, isn't a racist group. Now, they seem very nice. Thanks, Soho.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will be reporting back when our lives stop being a poorly done and badly paced pandemic movie.
Yeah. Can't wait to go back, hit up
you're
the
going-
gift shop, which is not in the house, so put some respect on its
Put
name.
some respect on saying. If you're going for the history element, I'd say go during the day. If you're going for a ghost tour and you have the option to go at night, what are you doing? Go at night.
Of course.
Get choked by Yankee Jim.
Yeah. It's scary, but it's a good story that will be told at game nights evermore.
Telled forevermore. Mm-hmm. Believe in Yankee Jim. Believe in yourself.
Believe in Anna Whaley's dump truck ass. And
Believe
believe
in
in yourself. So long and good night. Violet Whaley's favorite
Yeah.
song, yeah. Emo. No, depression is a serious issue.
We're not keeping any of this.
Okay. Adios, amigo.